Welcome to Fashion Footnotes, the channel where we explore the rich stories woven into the fabric of fashion. Today, we're unraveling the history of one of the most enduring fashion accessories, the ribbon. From ancient symbols of power to high fashion statements, ribbons have transcended eras, continents, and even social classes. Join me as we follow the ribbon's journey from its origins to the influential role it plays in modern fashion and culture. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Ancient Beginnings. Our journey with ribbons begins thousands of years ago in the world's oldest civilizations. Imagine Egypt and Mesopotamia, bustling centers of culture, trade, and innovation, where dyed fabrics were a sign of wealth and status. Here, ribbons as we know them weren't just decorative. They were woven with meaning and used as symbols of power and sacred ritual. In ancient Egypt, fine strips of cloth, often dyed in vivid colors made from natural sources like indigo or saffron, were used in ceremonial dress. Egyptians adorned themselves in intricate textiles, wrapping colorful strips around their garments as a sign of wealth and religious devotion. Ribbons were included in temple offerings and religious ceremonies, symbolizing life, vitality, and divine favor. Archaeologists have even discovered ancient depictions of Egyptian royalty and priests wearing fabric ribbons as ornamental details on their ceremonial garments. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, ribbons were similarly prized. This region, located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now Iraq, was renowned for its textile production, with dyeing techniques that produced vibrant colors. The wealthy adorned their clothing and accessories with dyed fabric ribbons, while kings and priests would wear ribbons and sashes as marks of their high status. Just like in Egypt, these decorative strips were more than mere fashion. They represented one's position within the social and religious hierarchy. Across the globe in ancient China, ribbons were elevated to an art form. Silk, one of the world's most luxurious materials, was developed in China around 3000 BCE, and with it came silk ribbons, delicate, soft, and dazzlingly vibrant. Silk ribbons became a powerful cultural and economic asset, so revered that they were even used as currency along the Silk Road. Traders brought silk ribbons from China to Persia, Egypt, and Rome, making them some of the earliest examples of cross-cultural fashion items. It wasn't long before silk ribbons became popularized among the aristocracy of ancient Rome, who wore them as sashes, headbands, and even as decorative details on sandals. In each culture, ribbons held significance beyond mere adornment. They were symbols of influence, wealth, and status. Chapter 2. The Middle Ages in Europe. Fast forward to medieval Europe, a time of kings, knights, and elaborate courtly dress. By this period, ribbons had evolved from symbols of wealth in ancient civilizations to markers of nobility within Europe's rigid social structures. European fashion had become more elaborate, and ribbons took on a significant role in reflecting one's social rank. The art of ribbon weaving became a valuable skill, and by the 13th century, craftsmen across Europe were weaving ribbons from precious materials like silk and gold threads. Ribbons became a sign of refinement and were primarily worn by the nobility, who used them to fasten garments, adorn headpieces, and decorate the cuffs of their robes. European nobility preferred ribbons in rich colors like deep blues, purples, and reds, shades that were difficult to produce and therefore reserved for those of high status. In France, particularly, the fascination with ribbons blossomed. French cities like Lyon became epicenters for silk ribbon production, with the city's craftsmen creating exquisite ribbons that were sought after by aristocrats across Europe. These ribbons were often intricately woven with patterns and sometimes even embedded with jewels, elevating their status as luxurious, high-demand items. The concept of ribbon guilds emerged as well, with artisans in places like Lyon and Florence forming associations dedicated to mastering the craft of ribbon weaving. Ribbon guilds set standards for quality and design, ensuring that only the finest ribbons would reach the nobility. This exclusivity further cemented ribbons as symbols of power and prestige. By the end of the Middle Ages, ribbons had become indispensable elements of European courtly fashion and culture. Chapter 3. Renaissance and Baroque periods. The Renaissance period ushered in a new age of cultural rebirth, artistic expression, and yes, fashion evolution. As clothing became increasingly elaborate, ribbons grew in popularity, not just as accents but as central elements of attire. In both men's and women's fashion, ribbons adorned the collars, sleeves, hats, and even shoes, symbolizing wealth, elegance, and a sense of taste. One of the most influential figures in ribbon fashion was King Louis XIV of France, known as the Sun King. The opulence of his court set trends across Europe, where ribbons were used in astonishing abundance. Known for his love of extravagant dress, King Louis and his courtiers adorned their outfits with lavishly embroidered ribbons, setting a standard of luxury that influenced fashion trends across the continent. Ribbons were tied in bows and knots and draped across garments, showcasing a style that was both playful and decadent. During this time, ribbons became associated with the concept of sumptuary laws, regulations dictating what certain classes could wear to maintain social order. Only the wealthy could afford the high-quality ribbons crafted from silk and other costly materials, and sumptuary laws restricted these ribbons to the upper classes. For nobles, ribbons became more than just a fashion choice. They were a way to visually reinforce their place within the social hierarchy. The Baroque period saw an explosion of artistic and decorative elements in clothing, and ribbons were central to the extravagant styles of the era. Ribbons were often made in large loops and bows, draped around the shoulders and down the back in tiers, enhancing the drama of an outfit. As ribbons became symbols of the aristocracy's wealth and privilege, their use became more widespread in both ceremonial attire and everyday fashion, solidifying their place in European culture. Chapter 4. The 18th and 19th centuries, Industrial Revolution and Victorian Era. The Industrial Revolution changed everything, including the way ribbons were made and who could afford them. As textile manufacturing processes advanced, ribbon production became faster, cheaper, and more accessible. For the first time, ribbons were within reach of the middle class, transforming them from luxury items to popular accessories. During the 18th century, ribbon factories emerged in France, England, and America, mass-producing ribbons for the growing market. These factories introduced synthetic dyes, creating bright, affordable ribbons in colors that had previously been costly or difficult to obtain. Ribbons began to appear on clothing, accessories, and even furniture, marking the beginning of a shift from aristocratic adornment to everyday style. In the Victorian era, ribbons became an essential part of women's fashion. They were used to decorate bonnets, corsets, and dresses, particularly in shades of pastel that reflected the era's romantic ideals of femininity and modesty. Ribbons were now associated with gentility and grace, and Victorian women used them to enhance the delicate, ornate styles of the period. Ribbons even found a place in popular symbolism. Women would tie colored ribbons on their dresses to signal their romantic interests or marital status. Beyond fashion, ribbons were also used in decor, tied around bouquets, wrapped around gifts, and draped over furnishings. By the end of the 19th century, ribbons had cemented their role not only in fashion, but as symbols of sentimentality and romanticism. Chapter 5. The 20th century and modern symbolism. With the 20th century came a new role for ribbons, symbolism. Ribbons took on powerful meanings beyond aesthetics, representing causes, movements, and identities. This change began in the 1970s with the yellow ribbon, which was tied around trees as a sign of hope for the safe return of soldiers during wartime. This act sparked the use of ribbons as symbols of solidarity, remembrance, and awareness. The red ribbon in the 1980s became an emblem for AIDS awareness, representing compassion and support for those affected by the disease. Since then, ribbons in various colors have been used to symbolize a wide range of causes: pink for breast cancer awareness, purple for domestic violence, and rainbow ribbons for LGBTQ+ pride. The simple ribbon evolved into a universal language of hope, advocacy, and activism, allowing people to express solidarity in a powerful yet subtle way. High fashion also continued to embrace ribbons, with designers like Chanel, Dior, and Gucci incorporating them into their collections as symbols of timeless elegance. Chanel's signature bow, for example, became synonymous with the brand's sophisticated style, while Dior's ribboned accessories exuded Parisian grace. Ribbons became versatile elements in modern fashion, used by designers to evoke femininity, creativity, and sometimes even rebellion. From ancient rituals to symbols of advocacy, the ribbon's journey has been long and remarkable. Its evolution from a piece of cloth to a universal symbol speaks to the power of fashion in shaping our world and expressing our identities. Whether a statement of style, a marker of social status, or a symbol of a cause, the ribbon has woven itself into the fabric of human history. Thank you for watching Fashion Footnotes. If you enjoyed this journey, please like and subscribe, and join us next time as we explore the fascinating history of another fashion icon.